Hey guys, Sean here with Blue Ridge Silverhound. All right, so I got great news for you guys. If you have the ability to obtain $2 bills from any one of your personal banks, listen closely. Number two, if you have $2 bills and you just never thought about looking through them, good news. This video is for you. $2 bills all of a sudden gaining a little bit of a spotlight here lately, specifically due to the Star Notes. We're going to talk a little bit about that here in this video. The Star Notes, just regular Star Notes, guys, of some of the newer issues are selling for like $10 a pop. That in itself is a hallelujah moment, right? It's like about time, my money is like paying interest back to me in some certain aspect. But yeah, the Star Notes, big deal. All right. But there are other types of notes to be on the lookout for that are worth lots of money. I'm telling you, these $2 bills, as useless as they kind of are, outside of like tipping people, they are essentially useless. And as we know, with the cost cutting measures that are currently happening at not only the BEP but the US Mint, the future of the $2 bill has a lot of uncertainty going with it. All right, we don't know how much longer it has. Again, it's kind of like one of those denominations that if it disappeared one day, I don't think anyone would personally care. I probably wouldn't. It's actually, aside from the $50 bill, it might possibly be one of my favorite denominations from a design standpoint because it looks about as old as some of the other notes that we're used to seeing with the smaller head portrait on them. All right, but that's a conversation for a completely different day. Now, what brought upon this video has to be the sale from over the weekend, or actually a few days ago, not so much from the weekend, but a few days ago, middle of the week. $2 Star Note, 2017A Star Note. People have been finding these left and right like they're going out of style. You know what's not going out of style is how much these are realizing on the secondary market today. This price trend chart is just, it's like a solid up arrow and to the right, into the future. And I could see these things possibly getting just way more expensive. The nicer the condition, of course, is going to be the more meaningful aspect to collectors. But, a few of those notes that maybe have a little circulation look to them, have no fear, they're still going to be worth some money. So we have this sale right here from August 5th, just a few short days ago. One of the filled star errors. And we've been covering this on every Pocket Change market report known to man for the last, X amount of years. Probably I would say the last like 2 years, 3 years, somewhere around there. And we've been kind of like charting the course. Where are these things, going to go? And I think there was a lot of uncertainty to this because at the time that these were discovered, nobody really knew that Star Note production would go the way of the dinosaur. Okay, as of right now, we are in August of 2025. If you're watching this for the first time, news break. The BEP is no longer producing Star Notes. They have replaced their machinery with an LEPE press, which essentially makes printing Star Notes obsolete if they needed to reprint a specific serial number due to just a misprint or some sort of factory malfunction or damage. They could go in and boop, 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 right on the computer, print out a new sheet with all of those serial numbers, and they won't have stars on them, okay? There won't be the needless act of pre-printing, 2 million Star Notes in the event that something did happen to a specific run of regular bills. So that's where kind of like Star Notes sit right now. These things, and based off of the survival rate of paper money, 3 to 4 years on average is the life cycle of any paper bill of that sort. So if we're using kind of like some of these numbers, early statistics, we're going to say in about 5 to 6 years, we're going to see just an incredible thinning line of star notes in circulation. So if there was any time to strike while the iron's hot and while there is still some sort of inventory out there in the banking system, now would be the time. Do not wait any longer. And this is kind of like one of those lessons that we're going to learn here. This note, out of nowhere, went from like $30 to $40 about 6 months ago to now we're at new highs of $80 to $100 per note sold. Here's one here, and you got to make sure they're uncirculated. A lot of these are still, A, not being used out in society today, and B, they're being found in full bank straps. So that's going to be your best bet, is just to go ask around your banks, hey, do you have any $2 bills? And they'll probably look at you funny because nobody ever asks for $2 bills, but they're going to be glad you asked because they want you to take it off their hands. So with that being said, there might be some little extra benefit here for you guys as a result of asking the uncomfortable question. So when we look at these things, the top right serial number star is filled. All right. Normally they would have a little white dot in there as part of the character design of the star on that, what they call the suffix location, which is at the end of the serial number. You have the prefix letter, which in this case it's an L, San Francisco block. You have the serial number base, and then you have whatever the suffix is at the end. Usually it's some other letter to kind of clear out the block there. But this particular case, they do stars as a replacement. These are replacement notes in the event that some of the normal production stuff gets damaged, lost, whatever, what have you, whatever the case may be. They'll go ahead and put these in its place in the straps. So, again, this particular case, that star, top right corner, filled. Whereas the bottom left will have that little white dot in there. Now, grading companies commonly refer these as overinked stars or overink error. And they will designate that right on their slab label, whether it's PMG, PCGS banknote currency, companies like that, all right, if you want to use them. Me personally, I could care less about using grading companies, for things like this because they kind of like speak for themselves. However, the caveat could be that if you had a note where it looks like it could possibly grade out ridiculously high, grading might not be a, too bad of a proposition. And we're going to see why here in a moment. $91, 15 bids, brand new high for one singular note. Multiple notes have been known to pop up in auction. Here is a lot of 2 graded PMG 64 EPQs. These sold back in May 26th, about 90 days ago, or somewhere thereabouts. Probably not close to 90 days, maybe 2.5 months, somewhere around there. But these were already graded. Okay. So with that being said, with these particular notes here, they did not pay for the error attribution on here, which is going to be important if and only if you're interested in selling these with that error on there. Say usually they'll put it right next to the grading, the grading part of the right side of that label right there. It'll say overink star or filled star or whatever the case is. So you can see that even, and 64 is such a kind of subpar uncirculated grade. It's kind of like what you would normally expect right out of a strap. They might have little soft corners or things like that, but $147 is what this pair sold for, and it's a consecutive set, by the way, in case you're wondering, of filled star notes there. So again, just in the last 2.5 months, we have seen just this dramatic shift in the overall price of what these have sold for. Here's another one here that sold for $229. This one in a 67 PPQ. This one also with the filled star, but it's not designated on the holder. Again, you do have to pay additional money to the grading companies in order to get that designated on the holder. This one does not have that. The next one that we have here is another one that ended up selling for $332. This one within the last 90 days. This one graded at such a huge grade at 68 ppq. And this is kind of like the reason why that you would even consider grading these things. If you had the inkling or idea that these things will grade out 6, 7 or higher, because that's where you're going to see just massive gains in profit, I would certainly do that. But if you find that the note's a little bit off center, or there's some other conditional issues with the note, I wouldn't even bother paying the like $30, $40 to grade these. Again, you're going to pay additional if you're looking to get that error. Now, on this note, it does say through PCGS Banknote, solid star error. All right, just so I'm not bullshitting you guys. They actually added that in there as the error designator for this particular note. Some more right here. Another look at the reverse, just showing just a really hammered, centered, printed, cut example. Very pretty note. What I also wanted to address for $2 bills is that 2021 is the absolute final year for star notes for the $2 notes. And the same follows suit for all the other denominations, including the $20 bill, the 5, the 10, whatever. Because it was they just stopped printing them because they got the new presses, those LEPEs. So just a quick little kind of rundown of the production numbers on $2 star notes. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. They are minuscule on certain dates. So 2021 here, you have a run of 500,000 and 3.2 million. 3.2 million is quite common. It's a higher end of the scale. But, however, 3.2 million isn't a whole lot in the grand scheme of things when we're considering timelines. Like, in 6-7 years, 3.2 million, if maybe a good fair amount of them ended up being, sent off for destruction because they look bad, through attrition. The attrition rate on a lot of these notes is anywhere from like 60 to 80 months. It's not very long, and that seems to be the life cycle of a lot of paper money, before you, begin to see this recycling into the newer stuff. So 2017A, this is where things get pretty crazy. You have this B star block here with only a sheet run of 32,000 pieces. And then it jumps up significantly here on the same block, but a much higher serial number range at 6.4 million, all the way up to 9.6 million. There's 3.2 million of that particular star. Again, don't let this number here kind of fool you because, everybody is gobbling up star notes. It doesn't matter what the run is. 960,000, 1.9 million, 640, 3.2 on this G star. Here's some really minuscule ones here, 160,000, 160,000, 1.28 million, 32,000, 64,000. 640,000. So if you ever get a star note and kind of like talking outside the $2 bill conversation, whether it's a dollar bill, $5 bill, has a star, go into this website, mycurrencycollection.com, and type in your serial number with the star. Find out what the run size is, because the smaller the run size, the more rarer they are, the more desirable they are, the more money that they're worth in any condition. Like, this run of 32,000, it doesn't look like if it's going to be a rag, like it's been around the block a few 100,000 times. It is going to be worth some money. 2013, okay, another series date that nobody really paid attention to because nobody asks for $2 bills. 3.2 million, 640,000, 128,000, 1.28. 2009, some pretty ridiculously small star note production runs. 128,000, 512, 128,000. You get the big idea. 2003A, more of an afterthought kind of series date, over 20 years ago. 320,000, 384,000, and then check out 2003. A super afterthought date. Lots of 16,000 all the way down the line for all of the blocks. A star, B star, C star, you name it. It's only when you get to iStar block after 16,001 where it jumps up quite a bit, and then you have 640,000 and then more 16,000s to finish off. 95 is a true rarity date, all right, but it's the second most significant, most widely produced date beyond 1976 when the $2 Federal Reserve note initially came out. So you see these just massively minuscule numbers on here. The 640,512, yeah, it's still small considering that this is a date 30 years in the making, and a lot of these notes have since disappeared either into collections or lost because they were damaged or just really worn to a wet rag, and then they were pulled out subsequently out of circulation and then sent off for destruction. And then you have 1976, the debut year of the $2 bill as we know it, enjoying significantly higher star note production runs. As you can see, there's really no shortage here. If you ended up with a 1976 star, there's actually more to look for outside of just the production run numbers for 76. Here's a few more kind of other odds and ends to be on the lookout for. If and only if you do have $2 bills and maybe you've held on to some pretty interesting pieces over the years. Fancy serial numbers, still a thing. My goodness, this market has exploded in popularity just in the last 2 years. It got gained into even more prominence after COVID began, and then just in the last 2 years, people are really getting serious about what they're looking for here. So we have a solid consecutive run of 6 in a row 7s on all of these $2 bills. There's a lot of 10 of them ended up selling for $252.49. Check that out. 37 bids. There was a lot of desirability for this lot, and that puts each note at what, 25 bucks or somewhere around there for 10 notes. So pretty massive premium just because of the serial number. And it really does help that they're consecutive, but at the end of the day, this is a really cool lot. The seller did exactly what they wanted to do. They made some good money on something that they found just simply by going to the bank and picking up some of these $2 bills. And again, it really never hurts to just ask, do you have $2 bills? Do you have half dollars? Do you have blah, blah, blah? Just throw out some random weird stuff that you maybe think they wouldn't have. Hey, do you have silver dollars? And they'll let you know. They'll let you know, because a lot of people that work at the banks are a little bit younger these days. And, quite frankly, a lot of them do care less about what you're asking for. Here's another awesome. This is a fancy serial number. It's called a super repeater. So it's 27 repeated over 4 times to the whole serial number. This one right here, it doesn't show, but this one ended up selling for right around $500, I believe. 2017A binary super repeater, one of the most desirable fancy serial number archetypes today. Here's also a nice little error on a 1976 $2 bill. Pretty gross misalignment of the print right here. As you can tell, it's got a big old huge margin at the bottom with some of the corresponding next note showing there, a nice little sliver. No margin up top. It's definitely miscut, and you can see the serial numbers and all that kind of overlapping the initial base print of that front of the note. And the back is centered. So there's a second print misalignment here, which is the base front part. All the black print on the front of the note is misaligned on this sheet. That's sold for what? $319.99 on that one there. And then we also have this one here, which is a rare mismatched prefix. And this can only be found on $2 bills, specifically 1976. So I'm saying if you've got some of these older 1976 notes, which by the way was a bicentennial year, a lot of people hoarded $2 bills. And a lot of people got the first day cover with the stamp and the teller stamp on there as well. Not the teller stamp, but the post stamp right from the post office. So these guys here have a mismatched prefix. This one says H, the other one says B. All right. And again, this is I had done a just kind of a look through to see how many of these were on eBay and on like Heritage Auctions, or how many they've sold. There's actually a fair amount of them. All right, it's the one type of error on this particular note that a lot of people tend to overlook. And if you do so, you're going to end up overlooking on the money possibilities of what you could sell these for. This one right here sold for, I believe, $700. They didn't even contest it with any best offer, and it's graded by PMG mismatched prefix error. And then here's a couple of like really big banging notes. Here is on Heritage Auctions, a 1976. This one sold on May 1st of this year. And this one, the overprint is upside down. So they call it an inverted overprint. It's noted on the slab label. This one graded 64 PPQ, and this one realized $3,600. Again, more possibilities here. If you have these, you just don't know what you have. Now I'm hoping we're kind of addressing them. And then the final note, guys, this is probably beyond nuts. This one sold back in 2022 on a 1976 $2 bill with a doubled overprint impression. If you stare at this long enough, you probably end up going blind. So please close and avert your eyes as we talk through this. But this one graded by PMG, doubled print error in a 65. Beautiful note. This one bringing home a staggering sum of only $18,000. That kind of money would cure a lot of ails if there was any. But again, ladies and gents, if and only if you have access to $2 bills at your bank, so you know they have them, you just never ask for them, or if you have some of these that you've held on to, yeah, there's a lot to look out for here. $2 bills have been long overdue for their due, and they've been overlooked for a long time because nobody really asked for this weird oddball denomination. Now is your time to go out there, hunt for these, and look for some of these. That solid star note is not going to find itself, and that price trend is shooting up into the stratosphere. Check it out now. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Thank you guys again so much for allowing me to entertain you today with some stuff that you could find out just by looking at what's in your wallet or what you could get at the bank. Thank you guys again. Happy hunting. Enjoy this hobby, and I hope to see you guys next time on the next coin and paper money video. Take care.